Actually, let's stop.
Hello, you're listening to Comic Reflections, Episode 10. I'm Nicholas Prom.
And I'm Spencer Valadez.
All right. So, today I know we usually open with our webcomic of the week, but when I was looking for webcomics this week, I couldn't find anything that wasn't stupid crap. So, a challenge to you, the listener, because I want to keep this segment alive, send us your emails. We want to hear if there's any webcomics you're reading that you're all about. So drop us a line at comicreflections dot or at
comic.reflections@gmail.com.
See, listen to me screw it up. Spencer's got it down. Yes, and then we'll seek it out and we'll check out that webcomic. We'll talk about it on the show. Pretty simple, but so we're counting on you,
Our listeners, faithful listeners.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's just jump right in with comics. So our listeners know that I've been reading Watchmen
for the first time.
The
original Watchmen. Yeah.
We kind of talked about this a little bit. I saw the movie.
Sort of.
Yeah. Kind of in and out. Fell asleep once. You know.
It happens.
I think I watched it late at night. So I knew that it was something I was going to have to read sooner or later.
Yeah.
And you talked me into it, and so I picked it up from the library, and I had to get it on hold because everyone wants it.
All right. It's
and it's a great book.
Indeed.
Wood. It is very, very. It's dark.
Mm-hmm.
And
from Alan Moore, dark.
Right.
Stuff? What a surprise.
It's not for. It's an adult reading.
Definitely. Definitely.
I wouldn't want my kids reading it or anything, you know.
Well, not until they're,
right.
Well, no, that's why they say for mature readers. So
yeah,
you kind of go with your own discretion there, but it's excellent.
Yeah, the character development was fast, but very detailed, and it made me understand the characters like really quickly.
Well, there's a lot of layers to Watchmen. I feel.
Yeah.
I think there's none of it is shallow. You know, it's very it's dense. There's a lot of different things going on, but it's like the palette that Moore paints with is so. There's so much detail. That it's one of those books that you can read and reread, and you get more out of it every time.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, and the cool thing I've been reading along with Watchmen is the Before Watchmen series.
Yeah.
And it was cool because, I mean, they pull directly from the Watchmen. The Before Watchmen pulls directly from history that was kind of set up in Watchmen.
Right. And I think we're getting more depth and more color to these characters. And I, for one, think these are great books. I mean, they're the people that have been chosen to work on this project are all the right folks. I mean, they've had, I think, we're on the fourth book has come out now. It's Night Owl #1.
Yeah.
And it hasn't disappointed, and none of the others have. They've just all been consistently great. This doesn't take away from Watchmen. This adds to it.
Yeah.
So,
just my thoughts. By far, my favorite character, just because he's so odd, was Rorschach.
Yeah, and I think he's a lot of people's favorites. Really.
Yeah.
He's great. I mean, and only in the comics would you be, rooting for a guy who's kind of a fascist.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
It's weird.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the way he kind of set up for the ending of the book, with the dropping off of his journal and things like that.
Oh, yeah. Major spoiler.
Oh, yeah.
But I love that because Ozymandias thinks that he has got this foolproof evil plan to save the world.
Right.
But of course, Rorschach.
Yeah.
Ozymandias looked past simple heroics to he stepped out of the side of the box and do something that would be morally unethical. To do something that would basically, save the world from nuclear destruction.
Right.
Okay, but Rorschach being so black and white.
Yeah.
And I love that, the mask and all that. It's great. I mean, of course, more planned. All
Oh,
that,
yeah.
like
It seemed
it's
like
right in your face, and it's also subtle.
Yeah.
It's great.
the great thing about it is it seems like every point of the pen, every like letter was perfectly placed
Mm-hmm.
for something that happens later.
Oh yeah, and you have to give Dave Gibbons credit for that too. He's
Right.
a terrific artist. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely check this out if you haven't. If you have, get it again.
Yeah,
Read it again.
you know exactly what we're talking about. But if you haven't read it, you need to. That's all I'm gonna say.
And that kind of leads us into our next little segment on Night Owl.
Well, right. I mean, yes,
we've been reading
the before Watchmen books, and Night Owl #1 came out today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great.
Oh yeah,
I enjoyed it. You want to delve into that?
I mean, it's a great story. I mean, we get like the background, and we knew that from Watchmen that
Dan Dreiberg saw and kind of analyzed Night Owl, but we didn't. Right. We learned from this that he was actually he became his real protege.
Right.
And that's cool. And we got a peek into Dreiberg's life that previously we knew nothing about.
Right.
We knew he had inherited money. We actually got to see a bit of his family.
Mm-hmm.
His father is a horrible man.
Yeah.
And
we get to see that
and it's a symbol of the pre-war American kind of attitude.
Right.
He embodies that, and then the transition. His son being not cut from a different mold is seeing the transition of away from the old. I'm going to say kind of hard-nosed American ideals and into the transition that we saw in the 60s of the American culture. So I like that.
We get to see the beginnings of the team up between Rorschach and
Night Owl.
Yeah, which is also cool.
Yeah, and before Rorschach completely cracked up.
Yeah.
But you can see he's on the edge.
Yeah. Great book. Again, pick it up if you've read Watchmen. If you haven't read Watchmen, I didn't, and I picked up Minutemen prior to reading Watchmen.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a weird way to read, but it worked out. And
right. I mean, if and I love that they picked for Minutemen, that miniseries, limited series, excuse me, that they picked Darwin Cook for that, or they asked him to, or I don't know how it works, but what a great choice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and he's writing a lot of these too. I know he's writing Silk Spectre as well, but he's illustrated Minutemen, and great.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. I know we talked about that before, but
we can actually move on to something else we've been reading. Kind of the story arc for is the New 52 Justice League.
Yeah, Justice League.
Number 10.
Boy,
we just read.
It seems like the League are getting together, and they're becoming suspicious of each other. There's lack of cohesion because they're realizing they don't really know a lot about each other. And then this mysterious villain that we've kind of been seeing in the shadows shows up and really cleans their clocks. And the issue just kind of ends with well, what is going on here?
Way more questions than answers, and I mean, it left me scratching my head a lot. But we also get this great Shazam story.
Oh, the Shazam thing. This I think is part 4 of this ongoing Shazam backup story.
I think so.
And we get two. It's kind of divided into 2 little subplots. If you came in with this, you should call. You'd be like, huh?
Yeah.
But it's like we get a bit with Billy, and he's visiting the tiger at the zoo.
Yeah. Tawny.
And and if you read the old comics, Mr. Talkie Tawny, the talking tiger.
Oh.
Yeah. But Freddy falls into the zoo, and Billy's just an angry kid. It's such a weird thing, but
it's a interesting idea of him coming from the foster home system,
right?
And him being just so angry.
Well, right, and I think it's interesting that the way that they're revamping the character, it makes sense because the orphan thing, and that was the Golden Age telling of it, but this seems a little more contemporary. a lot of times I'm kind of wary of that, and especially because I love Captain Marvel so much.
Right.
Um, like I'm like, don't change him, but I have a feeling that maybe when he eventually becomes Captain Marvel, we will see him. He's going to be the real Captain Marvel, but he's going to be like the best of Billy. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
yeah.
of who his greatest potential is embodied in the figure of Captain Marvel. That's what I'm hoping. So he'll be this, the Captain Marvel, maybe a little more serious,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah. And the other part of the story is, we've got Dr. Savannah is discovering the tomb of Black Adam, and that's I don't want to give much away, but he's got that magic eye, and he's translating some runes.
It's a cool story, and I look forward to it every time I read a Justice League.
Yeah, I think I'm more interested in finding out what's happening in the Shazam backup than I am in the regular Justice League. Even though Jeff Johns is writing both.
Both, yeah.
And I can never remember the artist who's doing Shazam, but I really like his stuff. I know I've read some other things he's done.
Yeah, so we can we've read a lot this week, so
yeah.
We can move over to our other DC story.
Do y'all remember Sean from a couple weeks ago?
Hey,
he
guys.
just walked in.
Yeah.
So
I'm home from work.
you're Sean from work. That's great. And you want to join us, Sean?
Sure.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yes, surprise, surprise, Sean's joining us.
That's
That's what happened to the live show.
Hasn't read all of them, but
That's okay.
we are in the Green Lantern New 52 story arc.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 6 through 10. We've gone through 6 through 10.
Right. You just kind of said you were just like, I must read Green Lantern, and picked up the last 4 issues as well as the current one.
And I left the number 10 at the store.
The last week, yeah. It's okay. But yeah, since this is your baby, so why don't you go ahead and get digging on this?
It seems like it's following Sinestro, mainly at the beginning, trying to convince Hal Jordan to pick up the Power Ring and follow him.
Yeah, I guess he had left the Lantern Corps.
Yeah. I think he was actually. It seemed like he was forced out.
Yeah, something. It's a little vague because we're picking it up at issue 6. So
yeah. Send us your emails to correct us if you want.
Yeah.
It's Hal Jordan and Sinestro, and Sinestro takes off and takes Hal with him, kind of fighting a unknown entity at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's the Indigo.
The Indigo tribe of those lanterns.
Right.
And compassion.
Right. But the rings that we come to find out that the rings were used as kind of as a punishment.
Sort of. Abin Sur secretly formed this the blue power battery,
right?
And with the compassion, it was bringing horrible hardened criminals and giving them this compassion ring to reform them.
Right.
And it seems like it worked.
Yeah. We get some redemption of a character in number 10. I forget her name.
Oh, the chick, and she was the first of the
she
blue
was
ring.
the first.
She had actually murdered Abin Sur's daughter.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he kind of, because of that incident, he kind of formed these rings and decided to.
It was really a great moment, and I don't want to ruin the whole book, but the one that stood out for me was, he gave her the ring, and she saw and realized and felt empathy for what she had done, and that she and Abin Sur, the murderess, and Abin Sur, wept together over, and I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. We have the
Black Hand.
Black Hand, that's right. He's made an appearance in a few of the issues.
Yeah, and he played a major part, of course, in Blackest Night.
Woo! Right, which I haven't read.
Which I haven't finished.
Right. But he.
Smash just blindly agrees. Yeah, I know, right? I haven't read it.
Yeah. We discussed it earlier.
We have been talking about it. It keeps coming up in our conversations, and it's there out in the library for you to check out at the least. I know Spencer's like, I must read Blackest Night.
He does.
Yeah.
And so we get this information that the Guardians have this secret plan to replace the Corps.
Yeah, they're going to disband the Green Lantern Corps and replace it with something else.
Something else, and so
And if you recall, remember the Lanterns were preceded by the Manhunter robots, but they were unfeeling and able to have. They didn't have the proper judgment required to dispense justice properly. Whatever.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they're going to now disband the Lantern Corps.
And so we're on the planet where the Indigo Tribe is, and Black Hand is there, and he was possessed by the Blue Ring for a while.
Mm-hmm. And he was like normal and like decent.
Right. And then he cast it away, and it came back to find him.
Right. Well, after they destroyed the blue Sinestro and Hal destroyed the blue power battery.
Right.
And then realized, oh, we shouldn't have done that. So yeah, but Black Hand bails and throws away the blue ring, so he's restored to evilness. We'll just say that.
Right. And so that's kind of where we left off in number 10.
Yeah. It's an interesting book. I mean, I'm interested to continue to see where this is going.
Yeah.
Also to see what's going on in the other Lantern books. There's several.
Yeah, the Red Lanterns.
There's the Red Lanterns, and there's the New Guardians, and there's the Green Lantern Corps. And I think that one's more about John Stewart and Guy Gardner.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Those guys are cool. So yeah, check out the Green Lantern. We have 6 through 10, and
I think the current arc starts with 7.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
So yeah.
You're not missing anything really. I mean, other than story, if you don't have them. But pick up.
I think if you picked up number 10, you'd be like, I gotta go back and figure out what's going on, because this is cool. I dig it.
Yeah. We also read.
And Jeff Johns is writing that as well.
Yeah,
he's
great.
He's a busy bee at DC.
Okay. What do we have next? We have Lone Ranger.
Oh yeah, you picked
3.
up the Lone Ranger from not IDW. Excuse me. Dynamite.
Yeah.
I get them a little mixed up because they do a lot of similar kind of licensed properties, but they're both good stuff.
Yeah, the Dynamite's picked up the Lone Ranger, and so I picked up number 3, and it was fine just jumping off right into number 3.
Yeah, I mean it seemed like this was kind of a pretty good jump-in issue.
Right.
I mean, yeah, he's being approached by the government to track down some train robbers.
Right.
And he's like, okay, but whatever.
We have a cool quote from Mark Twain in here. It starts off in the city of Utopia. And they have a weird city motto: the good folk forever mindful of God's wrath. Yeah. So there's this weird kind of angry God wrath mentality to the people there. And so the Rangers called in to check out these train robberies.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
the stuff hits the fan.
Indeed. And he and Tonto, no, literally, I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
They're in pursuit of the train robbers, and they catch up with them, but things get more complicated. I think we should leave it at that.
Yeah, definitely.
But this is very well written.
Yeah, it's a good story.
I know you're gonna pick this up. I'm gonna read it.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna keep picking that up. It's a fun read, and it's different than the Batman, Superman.
Well, sure. And I want to say I think it's Dynamite that's also putting out that Zorro book. I could be wrong. It might be IDW.
Right.
Because they're very similar in what those companies do. They're also putting out Vampirella right now, so I'm kind of curious about that. But yeah, cool company. Yeah, and good book.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah.
The next one I picked up was Winter Soldier number 6.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Winter Soldier, Bucky.
Bucky Barnes. And so for anybody who don't know, I mean, this was a Captain America sidekick, frozen during World War II, or thought we were killed.
Yeah.
Killed at the time the Cap was frozen, but he lived and was brainwashed and used by the Soviets or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he came out of it, and now he's kind of heroing on his own. But I think he's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, it seemed like it.
Yeah, or at least he's working close. association with them.
The
And there's
story,
another Soviet sleeper agent that's been awakened.
Yeah.
And the whole book is about this guy.
Yeah,
And he's after Bucky.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because I mean Bucky's there, but he's not,
Yeah,
doing much. He's
He's
just
around investigating that this guy is awakened. He's like, he and S.H.I.E.L.D. are just like a couple steps behind this guy.
right,
And we don't really know who he is.
right. He's just another sleeper agent from old Soviet Russia.
Right. I mean, we don't know if he's if he's a Soviet super soldier, like he's got superpowers or what.
Right.
But he seems like a formidable adversary. So,
Yeah.
And I think this is the start of a new arc. Solid reading.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, Ed Brubaker is great. If I read his run on Captain America, where Winter Soldier or Bucky actually had filled in for Steve Rogers when he was
Right.
dead. Great. I mean, I couldn't. It was terrific stuff. And this is on as far as writing, it's right along the same lines of quality. It's good.
Yeah.
Sean, were you reading any comics this week, bud?
Oh, I just read the first Next Generation Doctor Who crossover.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We picked up number 2 today.
Yeah, we did.
And that's good. It's getting deeper into that.
Yeah.
I haven't read it yet. But
Well, we won't spoil it too much. I mean, clearly, the Doctor is going to meet the Enterprise crew.
no.
Yeah.
Yes, honest. He does. And I don't know. I'm in.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm enjoying the art. It seems like it's this painted art style. And
Yeah.
I recognize the artist from something. I know I've read him before, but his name's
You picked up the other cover.
Oh yeah,
IDW.
there's several covers. IDW likes to do this. I got the cover A, where it's got Borg and Cybermen kind of in a cross-cut
Right.
cover.
And I have the Doctor and Picard shaking hands.
Yeah, it's on the holodeck, no
Yeah.
less. And they're in
Yeah.
not Sam Spade, but what is it? It's that old detective thing that they do.
Yeah.
But what is this artist? J.K. Woodward, and it's really like this painted art style, and I like it. I know I've read some other stuff of his or that he's done. I just can't place what it was. But it's good. I'm interested to keep reading this limited series. Not going to drop it.
Right.
I can't wait for the next one to come out because I'm like,
Yeah, because we saw the art in the back, and
yeah, spoilers, but also, the cliffhanger is like, no, right when we're
Right.
starting to get into the thick of things.
yeah,
We gotta wait till next time. So,
Right.
and that happens with these limited series. A couple issues in before you really get to the meat.
yeah. So moving on, we picked up the Batman, the New 52 Batman #1 annual.
Right,
Um,
and so it's a one shot.
right.
And it's a self-contained story, but it's centered around Mr. Freeze, and
Yeah.
it's kind of it touches on that Court of Owls stuff that's been going on in the Bat books.
Yeah.
That we haven't really pieced together yet because we're just picking the Batman stuff
Yeah.
back up. But it's a reboot on Mr. Freeze. It kind of turns upside down a lot of the preconceived notions you may have had about
Right.
him and the relationship with Nora. I'll just say that.
It made me feel bad for him.
I felt bad for him before, and
Right.
now no.
Oh, okay.
Let me just say that I don't want to give away the plot of the story, but it's Freeze, it's escaping from Arkham, it's Batman, it's that Freeze vendetta,
Yeah,
against Wayne.
right.
So that's a little something new. Read this if you haven't picked it up. It's good.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a lot of reading to do
Who's
tonight.
read that? Who wrote that?
Scott Snyder.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not familiar with just yet, but it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, great art.
I dug the story. I mean, it's
Yeah,
cool.
it's a great story. Next we have Harbinger.
Oh yeah, Harbinger. So Valiant Comics, as you may remember from like the '90s, they came out with their books like, they in the '90s they revived the characters from Gold Key Comics. They had Magnus Robot Fighter, Turok, maybe it was just those two. Well, I think there was another one. No, it was just those two that they did. But they're not doing those now. But they've the company's come back and they're kind of starting over a lot of things. They're bringing back books like Exo Manowar, Harbinger, Archer and Armstrong, and Bloodshot.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we picked up Harbinger #1. Yeah, you want to talk about this, Spencer?
Yeah, it was one of the ones that I kind of saw and I was interested. Yeah, it has. I mean, the cover has full of just thought bubbles. Because
Our main character is like he's a psychic. He's got
right,
psychic abilities and psychokinetic abilities. He can
right,
move things with his mind and read people's thoughts and control people.
right. And so, I mean, it is
Or should I say our POV character?
right.
Because Toyo Harada is the main character of Harbinger.
I haven't read any other Harbinger
I've
until
read
today.
some from the old stuff, and I'll have to dig the ones I have out for you to kind of flesh this out a bit.
But I mean, it's #1, so we're starting a whole new kind of series here.
Right.
I
think that'll inform this, even if it's an all new continuity.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So I mean, it's great. He's a psychic, and he's
this kid. And he's kind of like on the run, or something.
And so he's not necessarily using his power.
He's trying to suppress it.
Right.
Or just use it to kind of get by and survive.
Right.
And he's found by some people are after him, like some company, and Harada has surfaced to kind of help him. And we're just kind of getting a little window into this. It's only the first issue, but I'm interested to keep seeing where they're going with this.
Yeah, it was something that I just picked up as like I kind of want to see it, see how it goes. It's one issue, so
sometimes you take a gamble on books, and this one I think was worth it.
Definitely, definitely worth it.
So,
and then to end this segment, I mean, we have Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, Spider-Man. What was it?
688.
688. And boy, start of a new arc. It's the first Spider-Man book I picked up in a while, and I've been meaning to because they recently had this storyline with like Doc Ock gonna destroy the world or something, and like him and the Sinister Six. Like it's a big deal. But I just didn't get those. I think it was, I don't know, one of those. I heard about it mid-arc, and I'm like, I'll wait. But it's a kind of a Spidey going after the Lizard, and I think they timed this just right, because the movie's coming out I think next week.
Oh yeah. With the Lizard being the
main, the villain of the movie, but this is cool. I mean, Spidey's going after a long time enemy, the Lizard, who is unlike a lot of his other foes because he's like, there's no supervillain team up stuff with the Lizard.
Right.
He is an animal. He's a beast.
Yeah.
And becomes more of a monster, it seems, over time. It's almost like if Banner never had gotten control of the Hulk, he'd just say it sunk further into that persona. Because I think Dr. Kirk Connors is a similar type.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, throughout this comic, he's talking about, look, Connors is dead, and there's no bringing him back.
Mm-hmm.
And Spider, and that's kind of like the plot of this series so far, is that they're trying to bring Connors back.
Mm-hmm. And Morbius, the living vampire, plays heavily into this. I mean, thinks he's found a way to cure the Lizard or bring him back, and he's done something unsavory to achieve these ends. I won't spoil all that.
Right.
But this is cool.
Yeah,
I'm digging on this.
I've never really been a huge Spider-Man fan.
Yeah.
We've talked about that.
Right.
But this story arc has intrigued me.
Okay.
It might even kick me in the butt to say, hey, go read more Spider.
Hey.
But
even if you're like not a big Spider-Man fan, the cover will draw you in.
I love this cover. It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, you have, and it's
like, I hate Spider-Man. Oh, he's getting his head almost bitten off.
Yeah, the cover is the Lizard, with Spider-Man kind of like bent over his knee or whatever, and he's like, big monster teeth around Spidey's throat.
Right. It
looks pretty intense. I mean, spoilers, that doesn't happen in the book, but it makes it for a great cover.
Right.
Yeah.
So definitely pick that one up too. We've told you to pick up a lot of books today.
Yeah.
It'd be a little pricey, but
it's a good week for comics.
It was a good week for comics.
Yeah. If you've got a budget, I mean, I place a little, a budget for me every week, and it's pretty minimal, especially if you're gainfully employed.
Right.
A few comic books every week isn't going to kill you.
Right.
So, Yeah, where do we want to go now, Spencer?
We could jump back to the Justice League.
Yeah, I had a little something more to go on that. I feel like okay, we're oh, well, saying with I think the Captain Marvel story, the Shazam, uh, the I'm just I don't know if I said it before, but I was like I find myself drawn more to that story
Yeah,
than the main Justice League one. I mean, and it's funny like whoever the artist is on that story, uh, and I recognize it, and I know I've read stuff from him very familiarly, but
huh?
I just oh that's right, Gary Frank. Somebody help me remember what he's done. I like him. Jim Lee's a big name in comics, and he's illustrating Justice League. I'm just kind of like yeah whatever, and
Right.
and just loving the Gary Frank art.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
For me, the Justice League seems a bit. I don't know if the right word is scratchy. It just doesn't seem.
I've read plenty of Jim Lee stuff in my day, and this seems a little rushed.
Uh huh.
Not that it's not great.
Right.
Um,
I feel like they're just trying to do a lot of stories in this one comic. So they're doing uh, the old guy who's dying. What was his
right.
name?
I don't know.
Graves.
Yeah,
Frank
yeah,
Graves.
yeah, and I think there's some connection to him and the villain of this piece that's surfacing.
Right.
I mean, I think it might be the same guy.
Right.
I mean, I thought he was. I mean, I was thinking this guy was a white Martian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just the way the collar and everything. But
But then you also have the story between the heroes. The look, we know who each other are,
kinda.
kind of, and how am I really supposed to trust you if I don't know you?
Yeah.
And so we have this conversation between the heroes, and Batman's like, me and Superman work together outside of the league
Yeah.
all the time, but that doesn't, and I trust him,
Yeah.
so you guys can trust him.
It
But
seems like there's something going on that's trying to unravel the league, or just something internally that's just kind of causing this.
right,
So it's an interesting dynamic. I haven't seen this before,
uh huh,
and so it's new. It's cool.
yeah.
Um,
And then I mean, with,
Aquaman's getting a little not the respect. It seems like the people of Earth, regular people,
Mhm.
don't really give him a lot of respect, and then of Atlantis also this
Right.
mistrust because he's half human. So the League is almost like his refuge.
right,
I like this take on Aquaman,
yeah,
and I think he's cool. I mean, Aquaman's
yeah, yeah.
he's cool. I mean, I'm liking the character more.
I'll agree to that.
You know.
I'm liking him more. I always just thought of him as a guy who talked to fish.
Right, and
You know,
that's
like-
the joke, like wah, wah, but I mean, he does have super strength, and other stuff. There's more to Aquaman.
Right.
He
and,
is cool. He's useful.
And in this story, we're getting more of that.
Yeah.
So.
And over I think, just kind of to jump tracks a little bit, the Harbinger book. I always kind of wasn't into Valiant comics because I don't know, I wasn't crazy about the art,
Uh-huh.
and so I think I didn't give the story enough of a chance.
Okay.
But a lot of people are like, oh, you got to read those because they're brilliant. So I'm liking that they're relaunching this, and there's art that I can appreciate.
Yeah.
And also, maybe I'll go back and give those books a chance.
Yeah.
And so, I remember, there was some other stuff that I read this week. There's this Ryan Azzarello and Jim, who wrote 100 Bullets,
Okay.
and Jim Lee teamed up on this a year-long run of Superman, and that's collected in 2 trades called the Superman for Tomorrow.
Okay.
And man, wow, it looked good, but Azzarello doesn't know how to write the character of Superman to save his life.
Oh.
I was reading this and that doesn't read like Superman. That doesn't sound like that's not how Superman is.
Right.
I mean, some of it was, but it just it didn't seem like any Superman I knew.
Okay.
And the story was convoluted and what?
Right.
What's even going on here? It was a good looking piece of crap. I just didn't like it. On the other side, I read this other Superman trade this week. It was called Up, Up and Away, and it's a co-written by Jeff Johns
Oh.
and Kurt Busiek.
Wow.
And I love Kurt Busiek. And he, Astro City, and he did this great run on Avengers with George Perez
Oh.
doing the art. Terrific stuff. Um, and this I liked. This was classic Superman. It was really great because it was like it starts out like Superman has lost his powers and has been powerless for like a year.
Wow.
And Lex Luthor has been totally his name is no good. He's out of jail, but he's losing LexCorp and everything, and so he's got a big scheme to to take revenge on Metropolis.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I know, right? And it's a good one. It's a great Lex Luthor story. Superman gets his powers back. Spoiler. And all the while he's dealing with, as Clark, Intergang are after him, and so he's like, how do I flee from supervillains as I'm powerless?
Right.
But his powers has come back. He mops the floor with Intergang and the various supervillains who have been like contracted to take out Kent or Superman.
Right.
And I don't know. I just dug it. I really dug the story. I don't want to give the whole plot away, but I just liked it a lot. This was Superman done right. So yeah. And God, I read a lot of Superman this week. I read Unconventional Warfare and another Superman book. Greg Rucka wrote it, and he's currently writing Punisher. I've been meaning to pick that up. He did the Ultimate Daredevil and Elektra, which I read, and that was good too.
Right.
I like it. Rucka really pulls you in as a writer, but then I don't know. When I'm done reading it, I'm like, I feel a little not underwhelmed, but like, okay, like it didn't affect me.
Uh-huh.
Like, it didn't stick with me. It's almost like, I don't know. There's something missing for me with him, even though he's doing something right because his stuff he sucks you right in and it's page turner stuff. But at the end of the story, I'm kind of like, well, okay.
That's always a bummer.
I don't want to rag on him because he's good. It's just his style, I don't know quite what to make of it just yet.
Okay.
Like, because I like it and I don't want to keep reading his stuff. But it doesn't like have a lasting like, oh man, I can't wait to tell you about that story. Like,
right.
But I guess that's something that not every writer can do, or maybe that's not what he's trying to do. Like, it's not supposed to be the story is changing, turning the world upside down.
Right.
So he's not reinventing the wheel, but it's kind of like he comes in like almost like it's like a crime novelist.
Okay.
Or a spy thriller novelist kind of take on superhero comics, and so that's interesting. Mm-hmm. So I want to read more Rucka. I bet it fits perfectly with Punisher. Yeah. Now that I think about it, so I don't know. I'm interested. So
yeah. This last week, I mean, I finished up Watchmen.
Yeah.
I finished up my comics from last week.
Yeah. You were reading that? Weren't you reading that Alex Ross Justice League thing?
Yeah.
Justice.
Oh,
yeah. I think we'll save that for next week because you said you wanted to read it.
I would like to read it.
It's really good.
Yeah. John read it. They all read it. Is there other things you can say about without spoiling it totally for me?
I mean,
I know it's not a canonical story, so
right. I mean, Brainiac and Luthor have teamed up.
Oh, you had me at Brainiac and Luthor.
Right.
You had me at Brainiac.
But I mean, it's Alex Ross art throughout.
Yeah.
And so you get beautiful art, and for the art alone, it's worth it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I always say, like, man, I'm so disappointed when I pick up a book and like Alex Ross cover, and then it's some other schmo doing the art on the inside. Even if they're good. I mean, good. It could be George Perez or somebody that I really like a lot. John Byrne would be like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably would still go, oh, man, even if it was John Byrne.
Right.
But
yeah, the villains have teamed up to say, you know what? What good have the heroes done?
Yeah.
There's still famine in the world. There's still people being hurt. There's still, all this. Look what we can do. And so they're kind of turning the people of the world against
Oh, the Justice League?
The Justice
Yeah.
League.
Oh,
Bit.
that's cool. And
Yeah.
then, of course, there's got to be some evil, ulterior
Yeah.
motive. Of course. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Luthor and Brainiac
Yeah.
we're talking about. And didn't you say, like, Gorilla Grodd and Black
Yeah.
Manta were in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to read it. I want to
Yeah.
read it. So,
It's a big opening too.
Yeah.
oh, man.
Yeah.
Really big.
So yeah, read it.
Okay.
You guys too, read it.
It's a must read.
Yeah.
Must read. Okay, Alex Ross,
Um,
Justice, must read.
Yeah.
And I will be reading it, like, within the next day, hopefully.
Right.
But, yeah, I think that's probably going to do it for the show today. What do you think?
Well, I was going to talk about the Spirit a little bit.
Oh, yeah. You had some.
I had the movie in my stack of movies
Right,
for
and I
a
haven't
very
watched
long
it
time.
just yet.
It's great. I enjoyed it. It made me realize I need to pick up the Spirit comics.
Mhm.
And I know you've lent me one in the box.
Yeah. Will Eisner changed the game for comic books and really moving it toward a more serious medium, even though The Spirit is a funny comic.
Right.
He moved it away from it being just thought of as children's fare to this is serious art.
Yeah.
And I mean, you read any Spirit comics, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's really enjoyable, really noir,
Yeah.
oriented stuff. It's very episodic, but it does kind of build. It builds a kind of a mythos, kind of like the old Superman stuff, where they weren't too worried about continuity.
Okay.
They're just telling stories
Right.
and building a little bit on. They have plot devices and elements that you're familiar with,
Right.
but they just kind of continue on with these things, like Lois always trying to see, is Clark Superman, that
Right.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, there are things like that going on in The Spirit, and it's just really enjoyable stuff. And there's a whimsical feeling to it, but it's also not sugary or insulting to the reader. It's
Right.
intelligent stuff, beautifully drawn, and it's well written.
Right.
I mean, Will Eisner is one of the greatest figures in comics. I mean, yeah. So.
And so you have this creation by Will Eisner
Yeah.
that Frank Miller picks up
Oh my god.
for the movie.
Yeah.
And he directs, and I mean, I watched the commentary,
Yeah.
and oh my gosh, it gave me so much more respect for what they did, because a lot of it was, 90% of it was green screen.
Right.
Which typically I get sick of, because green screen can look terrible sometimes.
Well, right, and a lot of actors, like, they need a set.
Right.
They need to really have these other objects they're referencing to interact with.
Mhm.
If you saw Sky Captain the World tomorrow, oh, it's great. But what's her face? The chick. What's her name?
Name escapes me.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
there you go.
She's you can tell that she's not really jived.
Yeah.
Dialed in with that green screening.
All of the
Um,
actors in the Spirit seem like they just got better throughout the movie. There's a little awkwardness, you can tell, but it was.
Yeah.
They all acted very well.
Yeah.
And so
So.
there's a different take on the octopus.
Yeah, in the
Um,
I haven't seen the movie yet, but I know that you see the octopus. And
Yeah.
that's Sam Jackson. In the comics, you never see him. You see his gloved hands, or you see
Right.
him like disguised, but very always kind of tucked away.
Right.
He's just this shadowy figure that is the arch nemesis to the Spirit,
Right.
but you never really get a full reveal of him. And I thought that's clever.
Right.
He was a mobster gangster type, and it's
You're
cool.
in for quite a shock.
Yeah. It's a good movie.
I know.
And
yeah.
then
Yeah.
So go see the movie, or watch the movie, rent it, Netflix it. If you can, watch the commentary. There's a section on Frank talking about Frank.
It's so funny. I got into
Um,
Daredevil comics from watching a documentary on the Daredevil DVD.
Right.
And man, what an abysmal movie! But
Yeah.
it got me into reading these terrific comics. And Frank Miller is played no small part in making Daredevil great.
Right.
So
The comics, not the movie.
well,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
The movie's terrible.
You mean you didn't love Ben Affleck? Who doesn't love Ben
I think
Affleck?
the whole problem with that movie was just casting and costumes.
Yeah.
Other than, the story's fine. It's Daredevil.
Right.
There was a couple of silly, stupid things, but really the script wasn't all that bad.
Right.
It was just like, the costume is bad, then everyone you cast is terrible.
Right.
So
Kevin Smith's the only one who likes Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Everyone else hates him.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that'll wrap it up.
Yeah,
Next week though is our show will be coming after the premiere of Spider-Man.
Oh yes, so
Um,
we will have something. We'll have Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man picture to talk about.
Uh-huh.
For next week's show. So please look forward to that. Um, yeah, shoot us your emails.
Definitely.
Uh,
comic.reflections@gmail.com.
And look for us on Facebook. We're there. Like us.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you for listening. I'm Nicholas Prom.
And Spencer Valadez.
I'm Sean Roof.
All right. Good night, fellas.